It's the oldest sports car company in Italy.
The passion for Alfa Romeo is in the DNA of every Italian.
A brand built by glory.
Alfa was the most important brand in the Italian motorsport.
And forged through hardship.
Alfa Romeo has had more dark times than they've had bright times. Flashes of incredible brilliance, followed by decades of nothing.
Now, Alfa Romeo is taking their bravest step by building their very first SUV.
The Stelvio will send the message that Alfa is back.
It's the most important car right now for Alfa Romeo because they need to sell volume.
The most important model right now might well be the most important ever, and it's called the Stelvio. It's a 280 horsepower machine that blasts 0 to 60 in just 5.5 seconds. A vehicle that boasts a 144 mile-an-hour top speed. And an SUV that drips with sex appeal while carrying the weight of an entire brand on its sculpted shoulders.
This is one of those moments where if this doesn't work, they're back to the drawing board. They could go extinct.
The Alfa Romeo Stelvio, a machine built to bring glory back to a storied mark.
Alfa Romeo needed a big turnaround because if they just kept going on the way they were, the party was going to be over.
To keep the party going, the brand decides to enter the most competitive segment in the car industry for the very first time.
When you go into the most competitive markets and win, you've really made a name for yourself. You've really made a statement that says, I can do it better, and I'm the leader, and these guys need to catch up.
The quest to do it better starts in the small town of Piedimonte Saint-Germain in south-central Italy. Inside one of the most advanced automotive factories in the world.
This facility was built in 1970, so it has a long history.
Welcome to the Cassino assembly plant and the home of the Alfa Romeo Giulia sedan and Stelvio SUV.
The fact that the company chose Cassino for the rebirth of the brand is a source of great pride for us.
In 2014, Alfa Romeo spends 1.3 billion euros to revitalize the factory. The massive refurbishment belies a tremendous ambition. By 2020, Alfa wants to build 400,000 cars annually. That's a far cry from the marque's more recent history.
At one time, this was not the case. Alfa Romeo had basically given up. And now we have Alfa Romeo here on our chests, and we are proud.
The factory is powered by a 3-megawatt solar array and harvests 500,000 cubic meters of rainwater per year. Yet the real reclamation is the area itself.
The Cassino factory is the largest factory in the region. So it forms the economic reality of the region. The city is tied to the expansion of this factory. Beyond the sense of pride we feel, there is also a new sense of mission, a relaunching of the factory, and even of the region, because, as we know, our entire area is heavily influenced by the factory. It is obviously very, very important. 5,300 people work here. That's a lot of people. but there is also much more work generated by this factory. So having the possibilities to have factories and to demonstrate that it is possible to build cars well and competitively in Italy is one of our missions.
All of those jobs lie in between two of Italy's most famous urban centers.
Cassino is situated in a strategic place halfway between Naples and Rome, so it influences two different populations, which are very different from one another. We are right in the middle.
While Rome and Naples might be vastly different, the passion felt for Italy is exactly the same.
Italy is known throughout the world for its food, its art, its good wines, and now for its automobiles.
It's impossible to separate Alfa Romeo from Italy because Alfa Romeo is one of the mirrors of Italian culture.
Instilling emotion begins on the factory floor, where every day they build over 600 new vehicles.
To realize we are creating emotion, we aren't just building cars.
In a land famous for its antiquity, the factory builds on its own history. Over the past 45 years, more than 7 million cars have rolled off the Cassino line. And the connections for both the land and the machines run deep.
Amo lavorare in questo stabilimento.
I love to work in this factory. I am connected to this factory because my mother passed on to me the love and desire to work here. I practically grew up here.
Today, it's not unusual for car companies to build their vehicles outside their native country of origin, using parts from a vast array of nations. The Stelvio is decidedly different. 100% of the machine is made in Italy.
Alfa is known worldwide for its history and for its important past. I think it can truly become a symbol of made in Italy. The manufacturing industry is very important for Italy, especially automotive manufacturing.
There's a marketing and there's a human component to the idea that your Italian car is built in Italy. If Alfa Romeo were building the Stelvio in Mexico or the US or Canada or Australia or anywhere else, intuitively, there's probably no real difference, but in my heart somewhere, I feel kind of like my Italian car should be built in Italy.
For years, being built in Italy is both a blessing and a curse. The machines might be a joy to drive, but often the reliability is sadly suspect. Today, that stereotype is changing, one car at a time, thanks to some high-tech bits of kit and a bold ambition to live on the bleeding technological edge.
This is one of the factories that is in the vanguard as far as automotive production is concerned. And I can't neglect to mention how important it is to do it in my native land. This is Industry 4.0.
Industry 4.0 is Alfa's term for the fourth industrial revolution. The first transformation takes place right before the start of the 20th century, with the dawn of mechanization. The second arrives with the invention of mass production. Then, industry enters its third wave when computers and robotic automation come on the scene. The goal of Industry 4.0 is to add cybertech that enables workers to be safer and far more efficient.
This is a 4.0 factory, which means we have smartphones, which I can show you, that give us updated information in real time through an app.
In tempo reale, tramite un'applicazione,
Even if we are not at a particular station along the line, we can see any defects generated, any operator calls and where they came from, or any calls for needed materials.
Getting closer to the tech helps build a better machine. But reinvigorating the brand requires a touch of art and a bit of Italian drama. The Alfa Romeo Stelvio is a 5-seater SUV built like a sports saloon. That's sole purpose is to revitalize a brand and perhaps even a nation.
It's very difficult to think of an Italy without the Alfa Romeo brand.
I love the Stelvio because it answers to no one. It's an SUV, it's 2 boxes, like every other one out there, but it looks like nothing else.
The Italian magic starts inside the Cassino factory, where every week they manufacture nearly 3,000 new vehicles.
This factory is approximately 2 million square meters, the size of a small city.
1,800 craftspeople work inside the 174,000 square meter final assembly hall.
We have about 400 stations on the Giulia Stelvio line.
Those 400 stations move fast, very fast. The line advances every 78 seconds.
If you're going to build a unique product and you don't put love into it, it will not come out well. We believe in the product. It is beautiful. And when you make something beautiful, you are doing it with love.
Each machine receives a personal touch and is often highly unique thanks to the incredible amount of options available.
The complexity is considerable. For the Stelvio, there are 7 billion possible configurations. It will never be possible in a week or in a day to produce 2 identical cars.
The build commences when bare painted bodies enter the final assembly hall.
This is the first station in assembly. The vehicles arrive from the paint shop, where the bodies are painted.
The initial step is to remove the doors so craftspeople can get in and out of the machine easily.
In Trim 1, we assemble all of the parts that are not necessarily visible to the client. We install the cables necessary for all the functions of the vehicle.
To keep track of all the installations, they use an advanced touchscreen.
This is the operation terminal, OT for short. On this monitor, we have a centralized view of all the operations that are performed at this workstation.
If the system senses an error, it immediately calls an area supervisor. And one of the most critical stations it oversees is the instrument panel installation.
This is a very important process because it is the first significant step in the transformation of the vehicle. We place the dashboard inside the vehicle. We are putting a small piece into our very large puzzle.
It's a complicated puzzle that requires a lot of hard work by a tremendous amount of talented people.
The work is busy, very busy, but it is great when you consider that Trim consists of 130 stations working with 130 people a day.
To stay on schedule, they attach part carts to the vehicles.
This is informally known as a dolly, and all the parts are placed on it. The worker has all the parts at their disposal within easy reach.
The parts installed on the trim line may not be obvious, but the passion certainly is.
For me, it is a source of great pride, also because I am from Cassino. This is my home city and my factory. Making this important product for Alfa Romeo in my home, in this factory, with others who live here, is just the greatest.
Pride is born on the line, but reinforced behind the wheel.
To drive an Alfa Romeo is to drive a part of automotive history. When you drive an Alfa, you drive a winning part of Italian history. For this reason, driving an Alfa Romeo is like driving a Ferrari, if not even better.
It's a history that goes back a very long way. The brand starts in 1910 as the Anonima Lombarda Fabbrica Automobili, or Alfa for short.
If you look at the Italy story in the movie, in the picture, black and white picture, you will see many, many Alfa Romeos. This is a part of Italy, it's a part of our culture, so it's not simply a product.
Astonishingly, Alfa is the oldest sports car manufacturer in Italy, thanks to a single machine.
This is the Alfa 24 horsepower. It's the first Alfa, the first car presented after the presentation of the brand in 1910.
The 24 hits a then unheard of top speed of 100 kilometers an hour. Yet amazingly, it doesn't even have front brakes. Sadly, however, the sensation is short-lived, thanks to the outbreak of World War I.
Nicola Romeo was a young and brilliant manager that during the war took the control of Alfa to produce compressors, guns, and other military materials.
After Nicola Romeo takes control, he rechristens the marque after himself. When the war ends, he decides that racing will be the brand's salvation.
After the First War, Nicola Romeo decided to point everything on the sport production to win races.
He debuts a new machine called the RL.
The RL was the first car presented after Nicola Romeo took the control. It was a great success on the international market and a great success in racing. Oh, behind me there is the RL Targa Florio. It's the car that won the first important race, the Targa Florio 1923, with Ugo Sivocci.
The Targa Florio isn't just a car. It's also the name of the world's oldest automotive road race, which is founded in 1906 in the hills above Sicily. Perhaps this explains the Italian need for speed.
Danger is one of the most important parts of the Italian soul, and so it's normal to have so passionate for speed, for racing, for cars.
If you drive fast in the United States, somebody's going to use their cell phone and call the police on you. If you drive fast in Italy in an Italian car, they are so happy that you're doing it, that you're celebrating speed. It's a different culture. And it sort of comes through in the cars because the cars just feel like they want to go fast.
The initial win plants a very successful racing seed.
Alfa Romeo won the first World Championship for Grand Prix car before the Formula One, and in 1925 won the championship, winning almost all the races. And then Alfa Romeo won other important races like the Mille Miglia 11 times, the Targa Florio 10 times, and the Le Mans 24 hours for 4 times, from 1931 to 1934.
Part of that success stems from a young racer and later manager named Enzo Ferrari.
Ferrari raced for Alfa Romeo, and Ferrari worked for Alfa Romeo, and that's what the brand was built on before World War II.
Alfa has a history that is even older than Ferrari. We must take into account that the first car that Enzo Ferrari ever raced in was an Alfa Romeo.
It did so much for racing in Italy, it did so much for the region. I don't even know where to start, but certainly the fact that we're associated with Enzo Ferrari as one of our drivers is mind-blowing. When we speak about our Alfa Romeo sport part of the story, history is the reality. Alfa Romeo, born and produced the first Formula One cars in Italy. Ferrari arrived after. Enzo Ferrari was involved in Alfa Romeo, and only after he made the first team with Alfa Romeo's car. So this is the story.
By the 50s, the brand shifts gears to stay in business and introduces the Giulietta.
It was named Italian Sweetheart because it was the dream of a generation. And it was the car that transformed Alfa Romeo into a big industry.
The Giulietta takes Alfa mass market, while also changing how we name our cars.
In the 50s, the automotive world was changing in Europe, and more attention was put on marketing. The name Giulietta was the first woman name on a car.
They had these coupes that were just impossibly delicate looking, but in this understated way, Italy at its best. Cappuccino and a cigarette, having a good time.
It takes an entire decade before the brand's next big hit.
The Giulia is the symbol of innovation. It was designed in the wind tunnel, and it represents the 60s.
You look at a Giulia today, and it's just this really square box. But it was funky. There was something different about it. And then they drove like $1 million.
Sadly, neither the early racing success nor the pop culture-infused machines are enough. For the remainder of the century, the marque teeters on the brink of disaster.
L'Alfa Romeo agli inizi ha avuto della fase
Alfa Romeo has had a lot of ups and downs, and even some moments where it was practically gone.
Alfa Romeo history has a lot of crises, a lot of turning points, wars, political, economical situations. And now Alfa Romeo is restarting again with another part of its history.
The turning point comes in 2013, when the brand decides to relaunch once more.
For a long time, the phone line was dead. There was no one home, no good product coming out of Alfa Romeo. Boom, there's a 4C.
While the 4C captures attention, it doesn't move the needle at the cash register.
So they said, all right, we're putting a lot of money into this thing. We're building a new car, and we're calling it the Giulia.
The Giulia is a proper 4-seat saloon with a strong sporting focus.
The Giulia is a perfect Alfa Romeo. It will make you fall in love and then probably break your heart. And that's the beauty of Alfa Romeo, that the Giulia redefines the way a modern sports sedan should drive, period.
The Giulia is a hit with enthusiasts, but it doesn't catch on with the mainstream public. To conquer the mass market, Alfa needs a more accessible machine.
We got to have some hits. We got to get these cars out there. So we're building an SUV, but we're building an Alfa Romeo SUV.
Resurrecting the marque begins inside the Fiat Chrysler design studio in Turin, Italy. A highly secretive facility, normally off-limits to the public.
When I arrived here, one of my first trips led us to the Alfa Romeo Museum, and you see that Alfa has ventured in many, many different areas. There was a no-fear design approach, so there was a lot of willingness to experiment and try different things. But you will not find an SUV or anything close to an SUV in the museums. If you look at the acronym SUV, Sport Utility Vehicle, we're focused on the S. You look around, you see many SUVs. Most of them are rather boxy.
Klaus Busse is the current head of Alfa Romeo design, a man with a keen understanding for staying true to the brand's core.
I wish I could tell you with a straight face that the most important thing about an Alfa Romeo is the design, but I think I'd lie to you and to myself. The design is the second most important thing. The important thing is how an Alfa Romeo drives.
To ensure the Stelvio drives like a sports car, the team uses the Giorgio platform found in its Giulia saloon.
This fantastic platform named Giorgio. Strange name for a platform, maybe better for a man or for a dog, maybe, but it was a fantastic opportunity for us to discover again the feeling for Alfa Romeo's proportion, style, elements.
It's a rear-wheel drive platform that they can adapt for all-wheel drive. It's spectacular. It drives really well. It's a lively car. It's interesting. It's fun. The engine sounds spectacular.
Using a car platform for an SUV might sound strange, but in fact has become a way of life in the automotive industry over the past decade.
A crossover is a marketing term that came out a little over a decade ago, and it came to describe a car-based SUV. So basically an SUV that isn't on a separate body on frame, like an old truck or like a pickup truck.
It's based on a car. It has the benefits of a car and then some of the drawbacks. It's not going to do well on real off-road trails, but realistically, who's going to drive it there anyway?
This is not simply a car, this is not simply an Alfa Romeo, but it's a new SUV. We maintain the dynamicity of the car with the fantastic and corded proportion, the long bonnet, the greenhouse is very compact. And what happened in the back is simply unique, looking this category of car.
While the design team focuses on the exterior, it's up to engineers to ensure that the Stelvio actually drives like an Alfa. To do that, they need a little bit of magic and some virtual asphalt. For over a century, Alfa Romeo has been known for building sporty automobiles. Now, the brand is trying their hand at SUVs for the very first time.
Coming in the market years later, our product must have a specific characteristic, not must be a copy of the other. Must be different characteristic in order to let the customer to recognize us.
Roberto Fedeli runs the engineering team and for the past 25 years has been one of the pillars of Italian high performance.
I did a lot of different work in Ferrari, starting from aerodynamic specialist up to the technical director. Basically, I'm doing exactly the same work here. We are pushing a lot. I'm pushing a lot, and these people on let them to go deeper and deeper and deeper to discover new technology, new algorithmics, new ideas.
Pursuing new ideas takes place in a clandestine facility outside Milan, Italy, where the team focuses on a simple-sounding question that's actually extremely hard to answer.
Now, the question is, do you need a professional driver? Or through your electronic system, you can let to a normal driver drive very close to the limit.
To let ordinary drivers reach the limit, the team develops a unique computer system that features advanced driving modes.
So here we are in a place where we can test the car before the car exists. We are in the driver simulator. It seems to be a video game, but I can assure you that it's one of the most important instruments we have in order to do the right choices without having the car.
The state-of-the-art virtual simulator helps the team develop their own quick-shifting transmission system. The Stelvio can change gears in just 20 to 30 milliseconds, depending on which driving mode you select.
They want Alfa Romeo to be special, they want Alfa Romeo to be interesting, and they want Alfa Romeo to be Italian and uniquely Italian in a way that a German car isn't necessarily.
That uniquely Italian machine starts with a bang inside the Cassino factory press shop, where the marque invests over €1 billion to develop and manufacture the Stelvio's Giorgio platform.
Here we produce all of the steel parts for the Stelvio.
Each day, the press shop takes delivery of 50 giant metal coils, and each one weighs nearly 25 tons.
The operation typically takes place in 6 stages. The first is pressing, where the cut pieces of sheet metal are given their shape.
The shop features not one, but 2 pressing styles. The first is a cold stamping line that produces the vehicle sides.
This machine can stamp 14 pieces per minute, so in just a few seconds it transforms the sheet metal into the side of a car.
The cold press knocks out 6,000 panels every 7.5 hours.
The first operation has a force of 2,400 tons, and the subsequent ones a force of 1,000 tons. This is equivalent to 50 tractor trailers, one on top of the other, pressing down on a piece of sheet metal.
All that power helps create quite a bit of satisfaction.
It is a style, a way of life. Producing parts for Alfa is an honor, and we are making Alfa's first SUV.
It's a special type of honor that lives deep within the heart.
I am very proud, also because I am an Alfa Romeo owner. I like Alfa Romeos.
The connections aren't just between man and machine.
My father works for Alfa Romeo. He is in the next station over, steel bodywork. The parts that I manufacture, he assembles.
The lineage is strong because the factory has been here a very long time.
This is one of the oldest factories in Italy, and it has always accepted every challenge.
Every day, the team randomly selects a body side and takes it into an advanced quality control room, where a robot ensures that the geometry is perfect. One building over, the heat is on at the hot press line.
We are the heat press area. We receive both cut sheet metal and coils. The coils are cut on the high-speed cutting line. Then the cut sheets are placed on a line and loaded by robots onto the conveyor that runs into the oven.
The oven reaches over 900 degrees Celsius. Once a panel is heated, it's quickly formed.
The strong point of this technology is that you can use materials that are lighter, but which are very resistant.
Stamped parts head directly to the body shop, where it takes 4.5 hours and 200 stations to construct a shell.
In questo reparto realizziamo la scocca.
In this section, we create the body, that is, the metallic portion of the vehicle.
Around here, the sparks have to fly fast because the cycle time is a remarkable 48 seconds.
Il nostro principale processo è la saldatura. Per saldare I materiali che utilizziamo sono acciaio.
Our main process is welding. To weld the materials we use, which are steel and aluminum, we heat them to their melting temperatures.
The Stelvio's passenger cell is built using steel, while the front and rear sub-assemblies, as well as the exterior panels, use aluminium. Each material requires a different kind of welding. The robotic welders working on the aluminium panels hit temperatures close to 700 degrees Celsius. Yet the steel welding machines go even higher, routinely striking 1,000 degrees.
Si parte dalla realizzazione dell'autotelaio che con I sottogruppi. Successivamente l'autotelaio incontra.
We start by creating the bottom of the frame, which is followed by creating the sides. On the main line of the body shop, the sides are joined with the bottom of the frame, and subsequently the roof is positioned.
There are 1,300 robots in the facility. Yet, all eyes are on one very special station.
Dietro le mie spalle c'è la stazione dell'Open Gate di Scocca, dove 18...
Behind me at the moment is the station where 18 robots weld about 85 points on the body in 48 seconds.
Tutti i robot si muovono
All the robots move at the same time, with anti-collision systems in place.
The average tolerance is just a single millimeter. However, the impact being felt across the country is enormous.
L'industria automotive in Italia rappresenta...
The automotive industry in Italy represents the excellence of Italian manufacturing, apart from the fashion industry, obviously, because we join quality, technology, and style, and this represents us throughout the world.
Finished bodies are quickly reviewed before being sent to the paint shop.
We have some chemical products that clean the surface from the oil and from the grease. It's like a soap when you wash the dish at your home.
The clean, shiny bodies are now ready to take a quick dip in an e-coat tank.
The anti-corrosion paint is an electrical process. You dip the body in a big tank full of paint. Inside this tank, there is voltage.
During the anti-corrosion process, bodies are dropped into an electrically charged liquid. The fluid is drawn to the negatively grounded bodies, which ensures that the entire vehicle gets coated. Next, the body travels to the sealant line.
In the sealing process, we close each part in which we can have the entrance of water, of noise.
Sealed bodies are prime.
After this anti-noise application, we have the first paint layer. That is a light gray paint. That is a specific paint for resistance to the ultraviolet sun.
60 robots add a splash of color. And then a clear coat goes on. Before artists check the machines by hand. Fully painted bodies are then shipped to the final assembly hall, where it will take another 8 hours to craft a Stelvio. Italy is a region known for art, food, and culture.
We are so proud in Italy of our work not only in engineering, but also in art and architecture. So many scientific advances in Italy. This is why we are so proud to take part in this world and to represent Italy in the world with these products.
Perhaps one day the area will also be celebrated as the home of the Alfa Romeo Stelvio.
Everyone loves this brand. We're all rooting for it. Despite the fact that there's been a long time since Alfa Romeo's made a good car, everyone still wants this brand to win.
Winning begins on the trim line inside the Cassino factory, where the main focus is on quality.
We've had to increase our know-how. We've had to adapt to the demands of the market. Because to make a vehicle of this caliber, you need to assure quality and improve performance.
The plant is more than just a place where they build an SUV. It's also home to a heartfelt automotive family.
For me, it is a great honor to be part of this large family. I'm very happy to be here. I am passionate about the work I do because it centers around precision and perfection, and I really love that kind of work. What working here means is having some security, but it also means you go home at night feeling that you did something.
A third of the way through the build, the machine enters the underbody line.
Questa parte della fabbrica si chiama Chassis 1.
This part of the factory is called Chassis 1. In this section, we assemble the undercarriage components. As you can see behind me, for this purpose we have a transport system with rotating hooks. This lets us rotate the car almost 90 degrees to enable an ergonomic installation of all the components.
The rotating hooks help reduce the physical stress for the workers by offering easy access to the bottom of the machine.
They are able to work with the vehicle directly in front of them. This is why we use this technology, the revolving hooks, where the vehicle is correctly positioned for the operator. In our organization, in our facility, there have been important changes in the past 10, 12 years. Today, there is much more attention to human factors, ergonomics. We pay particular attention to ergonomics here. The factory has historically been a place of machismo, and in working on ergonomics, we have tried to cast off this impression, creating each station as a place where work can be done without fatigue.
As the vehicle continues to be built up, a few lines over, they construct the powertrain.
The initial part of our process is when the motor and the gearbox are put together.
While the engine and transmission are mated, on a separate line, they build up the powertrain sub-assemblies. The process begins when a transfer case arrives on the line. The frame is added. Control arms are installed. Disc brakes, and finally, shock absorbers.
I put a part of myself in everything that we do, and the origins of the brand are intertwined with my origins.
Some origins are intertwined, others go back a long way.
I oversee the semi-automatic tooling that the line workers use. I have always enjoyed this type of work, and I am, if not the oldest, then one of the oldest here. I am 61 years old, and I have been here for 30 years. I get a lot of joy from my work. I am a country person. You put tools in my hand like a hoe, I go off to work.
Over the years, the Cassino factory undergoes massive change.
When I began working here, along the line there was cardboard everywhere, garbage. If you needed a little paint for touch-up, you couldn't find it. Today, I wouldn't say you could eat off the floor, but almost.
Completed front and rear assemblies are united on a drivetrain jig, where they add the exhaust system, carbon fiber drive shaft, and fuel cell. Finally, a new powertrain is ready to meet its machine. A match made in automotive heaven.
Qui siamo nella parte più importante dello stabilimento, il mariaggio o matrimonio.
We are standing in the most important part of the factory, the marriage of the body and the chassis. As you know, Alfa Romeo is famous for its chassis, so it is here that the true vehicle is created.
The marriage is both fast and fluid.
Per noi è una grande sfida perché mai avevamo fatto una macchina.
Even for us, it is a great challenge, because we have never built a vehicle that could compete with these giants of the automotive industry. Even for this factory, this represents a challenge for each of us, and we give it our all in order to make the best SUV.
After the nuptials, the crash structure is installed. The front lights go on, and they add the rear bumper.
Dove viene dal radiatore, traversa, splitter, ala in carbonio.
This is where the radiator, the crossmember, speakers, front spoilers, and undercarriage is assembled.
Massimo Papa is the team leader on Chassis 3 and also one of the numerous multi-generational craftspeople. His father, Giuseppe, works in Alfa's Modena factory, handcrafting 4C sports cars.
I have worked at Alfa Romeo for 38 years, and I am proud to be a part of this company, Alfa, that is an historic brand for Italy.
Giuseppe is an artist, as one of our most experienced workers. 14 years here in Alfa Romeo, and also he drives old Alfa Romeo. So your son works in Alfa Romeo, right? In Cassino. All the family work in Alfa Romeo.
Mio padre è un tipo molto socievole. L'avete conosciuto?
My father is a very sociable guy. You guys met him. He's very down to earth. He is very important to me because he is a person with heart. Working for Alfa Romeo, which is Italianissima, it really becomes a part of you, like a second skin, almost like a wife, so to speak. I followed him, and we worked together for a time. My father is one of the greats. I have so much respect for him, and he passed along to me his passion for Alfa Romeo. He started it, and I continue it. I hope that in the future, my daughter, who is now 14, will continue on. It is possible that in the future she might want to become a part of this large family too.
A servo-assisted hoist helps craftspeople lift the windscreens onto the sub-assembly station, where they add the rear-view mirror, before a robot installs the glass. Finally, it's time to complete the Italian interior by swinging the center console into place, bolting the seats in, and adding the steering wheel. The last big step is bolting the doors back on. It's taken 3.5 days to transform bare metal into a finished machine. It's a relatively short amount of time for a vehicle with such lofty ambitions.
Più che pressione c'è stata un'attenzione.
More than pressure, it was a high level of attention. This is the first SUV to challenge the giants. The expectations are higher. We need things to be as perfect as possible.
An attempt at perfection that's tied to a pristine road in the Alps.
The Stelvio, of course, is this very, very famous and special mountain pass that we have in northern Italy. With its endless turns and snapbacks, it's got all these switchbacks. It's just one of these amazing, unique experiences. Once you've been there, you can't erase that driving experience out of your brain.
The Stelvio Pass is famous for being a hardcore driving playground for enthusiasts. And in some respects, the actual machine is too.
Alfa Romeo did the right thing in this case by saying, forget about a massaging seat, forget about some little doodad. Let's get the fundamentals of this car right.
Base Stelvios start at just £35,000. with the goal of enticing more people to try the brand.
As good as the Giulia is, what the SUV does is bring in even more buyers, since that's what everyone buys, and that's what everyone wants.
I drove a Stelvio down the same road that I've driven many sports cars on, and I had more fun in that Alfa Romeo SUV than a number of sports cars. It really delivers on everything that it promises.
There's no harm in going after sportiness, as long as the ride isn't too brutal and the car is practical and reliable. If anything, once people get used to it, it'll be hard for them to go back to something that doesn't have lively steering, that doesn't feel interesting.
It's a driving philosophy that harkens back to the brand's early racing days. Driving for the pleasure of driving itself.
E quindi abbiamo voluto creare qui qualcosa di diverso.
We wanted to create something different. We can say that the Stelvio is the direct opposite of the self-driving car. It gives you the pleasure of driving.
All in, the Stelvio weighs 1,660 kilograms with fluids. That's nearly 150 kilos less than a comparable BMW X3 and nearly 200 kilos less than a Porsche Macan.
People like things that other people don't have, and Alfa Romeo sort of offers that. It's not the obvious choice. It's not the easy choice, let's say. And with their reputation for reliability, it may not be the logical choice either. But what you get is something different, and you get a different driving experience.
The Alfa Romeos are very different. The steering is incredibly fast, the brakes are incredibly responsive, and you just immediately feel like you're in something half the size, half the weight, and twice the horsepower. They're just fun in a way that most modern cars aren't.
High-performance fun that stems partly from tech, but mostly from passion.
Finiamo il lavoro, magari usciamo fuori, ci passa uno Stelvio, ci passa la
When I
Giulia.
leave the factory and I pass a Stelvio or a Giulia, that's where I feel pride. I can say, I built that. I put my stamp on it.
A personal stamp helping to defy traditional notions of what an Alfa Romeo should be.
È fantastico.
It is fantastic to revive this brand, which had dimmed a bit in recent years. And it is fantastic to revive it with this particular car.
Mio padre, quando è stato assunto comunque l'Alfa Romeo, non è che aveva momenti molto positivi. Ha avuto
My father, when he was hired by Alfa Romeo, it wasn't all rosy. There was a lot of ups and downs. He had some highs and some pretty low lows. I find myself now in a period of regrowth and rebirth for Alfa Romeo, working in a premium factory where a good vehicle is produced here in Cassino. I feel proud of that.
The Stelvio, a high-performance hot rod trapped in an SUV's body. And a machine built to bring honor back to Alfa Romeo, one of the world's most famous automotive marques.